Hello, my fellow readers. Welcome to June. Happy Pride Month, and let's check out what I read this year in May. This month we have King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, Wren Ruins It All by Amanda Dewitt, The Borrow a Boyfriend Club by Powers, How to Make Friends with the Dark by Kathleen Glasgow, and Out of Step Into You by Ciera Burch. Let's take a look at the first book I read this May. This book, King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, is the sixth in the Grishaverse series, following Shadow and Bone as well as Six of Crows. It is part of the King of Scars duology, which has King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. It is told by the King of Ravka, Nikolai, who is trying to rid himself of his literal demon, his general and potential love interest, Zoya, who has demons of her own and will do anything to stop their collective demons, and Nikolai's spy, Nina, who is featured in Six of Crows and is now shown battling the horrors of her past to create a better future for her and all Grisha. There is also a surprise character who gets little POVs here and there. Never before mentioned. He's new to this series. He starts his journey in this series in this book, but I really liked his POV. What I loved, the mixture of romance and fantasy. It was more fantasy focused with very subtle romance, but it was the perfect blend for the plot given. Like the romance, there was quite a bit of humor in this book, but it was subtle. It was shown in witty remarks or inside thoughts the characters had, mostly Nikolai. His POVs were the funniest. It was hilarious, but not in an obvious way, which was kind of nice. Getting to see the backgrounds of and explore the characters seen in previous series further was wonderful, especially with Zoya, who's first seen in the Shadow and Bone series, and while not a main character, she does appear in Six of Crows. Getting to see how she became the way she is. If you've read the series, you know she's very stubborn, she's independent, keeps to herself, and kind of mean at times. Very mean at times, actually. So seeing how she became so independent and closed off, and how she's still changing, was really cool. I loved the plot twists. I love a good plot twist, and these, while not the most surprising, definitely had me gasping at times. Things I hated. This is definitely a love-hate relationship, but Nikolai's character feels so stereotypical. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the witty, sarcastic, egotistical character who has a soft side for their love interest, but doesn't show those insecurities elsewhere. That's, like, my favorite type of character. Like Jesper from Six of Crows, and Nikolai from this book, and Rise from Akotar. I love them. I love them so much. However, and this may just be because it's done a lot, his personality is a bit predictable. We see his insecurities more in this book, and they're just like all these other characters. It works though, because he's definitely tied for first as my favorite character in the Grishaverse. The ending, I hated the ending. I can't say why, for spoiler reasons, but the ending just annoyed me so much, because the villain in the ending just annoys me. Nothing against Leigh Bardugo's writing, everything was perfect, I just hate this villain. My favorite quote, and this was from Nikolai, you can tell it's definitely his type of thing to say. He says, "I like to bet on myself whenever I can, usually with other people's money." This is the type of humor I'm talking about. This book has such subtle, it's not laugh out loud humor, it's just a little chuckle to yourself, you know. A little bonus, Zoya has a mentor in this book who helps her explore her powers and defy what it means to be Grisha. It was added as a side plot, and I devoured it. I cannot wait to see what else she does in Rule of Wolves. This was a 9 out of 10 star for me. The last star lost simply because it didn't have a wow factor. Everything about it was perfect. It didn't leave me feeling like astonished. Next up, we have Wren Martin Ruins It All by Amanda Dewitt. Wren Martin, the newly promoted student council president, has a plan. He is going to abolish the dance, ridding Rapture High of unnecessary costs and heteronormative ideals, and allowing the student council a bigger budget to fix the school. But then enters Leo. Perfect golden child Leo comes in with a new plan. Instead of abolishing the dance, he wants to make it the biggest dance the school has seen, using the anonymous chat app Buddy as a sponsor. Wren and Leo have never agreed, now even more than ever, but as co-leaders in the student council, they find themselves having to make more compromise than either would like. As the story progresses, Wren finds his perspectives changing as well as what he wants. What I loved. This book features not only an enemies to lovers plot, but also gay, asexual, and aromantic representation. Wren is opposed to dating and the dance, and a lot of this opposition is in part to him being asexual. He thinks the romance pushed by school dances is unnecessary and causes people like him to feel like an outsider because they don't want what the dance allows. Again with the representation, but I also loved that no one was judged for their identities. This book showed the uncertainty and the fear that comes with being LGBTQ+ and coming out, but without the homophobia. I think that is really important for the world we live in because it perfectly showed both the negative side of being queer as well as the potential acceptance this world could have. The romance had me grinning and giggling and kicking my legs like a little kid. They are so cute. The plot twists were few, but quality over quantity, and the quality was amazing. It was a quick read, though it is 392 pages long. I finished it in 3 days, kept awake far past my bedtime because I could not put it down. All I wanted to do was read this book, and let me tell you, it gave me serious hangover. The visuals in this book, there were text conversations shown as a visual, and I love visuals like that. And it was like every chapter had them. I love that. Things I hated, it was predictable. I didn't really hate that. I knew where the story was going from the second I read the description, but I didn't mind it. It was well executed. So I guess really I hated nothing. It's one of the best stories I've read in a while, actually. My favorite quote, this isn't necessarily my favorite, and it's not important, really, but it made me laugh, and it shows the cute style of humor this book has. And this is, Buddy Boy's love language is clearly cake-based. That is a real thing said in this book. Go read it. A bonus, this book is perfect for fans of the movie Anonymously Yours. It follows a very similar storyline. Hopefully that's not a spoiler. And fans of LGBTQ+ representation, which we should all be. It follows a very similar base plot through this book, in my opinion, but has more depth and complexity as Anonymously Yours, so that's cool. Overall, 10 out of 10, really. I used to give most books I read 5 stars, but then I really started doing these reviews and figuring out that not every book's a 5-star. That's why I've switched to doing out of 10, because it gives me a lot more range. But this one's seriously a 10 out of 10. I used to be easy to impress. I'm not as easy to impress anymore. So, this was a 5-star read. Better than 5 stars. 100 out of 10 if that were possible. Go read it. Maybe finish this video first, but then go read it. This next book is The Borrow a Boyfriend Club by Paige Powers. After problems arise, Noah Bird transfers to a new high school with a mission. He is determined to prove to his classmates that he is enough and prevent the slip-ups from happening again. What better way to prove you are a boy than by becoming a member of the Borrow a Boyfriend Club? But with the club president Asher's challenging trials and Noah's own internal battles, being the perfect boy might be harder than he thought. Things I loved. The representation. The main character Noah's main goal is to prove to everyone that he is enough to be a boy. This is such a relatable and under-discussed occurrence when it comes to the trans community. So often is it easy to feel as though you aren't flat or sporty or masculine enough or any other factor, which can make it really difficult to accept yourself for who you are. Paige Powers handles this topic perfectly, showing that while Noah believes he needs to convince everyone else he's enough, really, he only needs to convince himself. The down-to-earth realistic romance. It's awkward, it's messy, it's not love at first sight at all. I loved this romance because it shows love for what it is, not what Disney or any other movies make it to be. The cover, this is a very small factor, obviously, but the cover is absolutely adorable. And there's an alternate cover that I'll put in this video. It's also so cute. I'm obsessed. I loved the trials and rules of the club. It was a cool visual to see, like, it wasn't, a picture or anything, obviously. It was just typed a different way, but you could see the handbook, and it was for the club. It was really cool. The book is filled with comical moments and wonderful humor. I'll be telling you my favorite quote from this book in a minute, and it's from my favorite scene, which was one of the funniest scenes I've read probably this entire year. I loved the humor in this book. Things I hated. Some moments felt a little too cringeworthy, borderline unrealistic. However, I did like that it showed the raw, messy parts of life that people don't often think about. And then sometimes the characters needed a good shake and a snap back to reality because they were so focused on themselves or such small problems. It was really annoying. Like, they have big normal problems, but it was crazy. There were some problems that it was like, you need to get over it. Here's my favorite quote from the scene that I said was probably one of my favorites I've ever read because this book's just so funny. This is a thing that one of the main characters says. He says, "You broke my window, and now you're asking me to the winter festival?" This is a grand gesture scene that went totally wrong, and it was my favorite part of the whole book. I was absolutely losing it because of how funny it was. Bonus, the book shows the progress of Noah applying for a legal name change. This was a wonderful addition. It shows that it's not just you say, oh, this is my name, and then that's your name. Like, there are people who aren't going to accept it, or people who will, and it showed how long it can take to get that legal name change and how uncomfortable it is waiting. I loved this edition. Overall, I wrote that this book gets an 8.5 out of 10. It's been a little while. I mean, it's been a few weeks since I finished it, but I do think I'm going to bump that to a 9 out of 10 after reading all of what I wrote about it because, I mean, it was a good book. Like, it wasn't my favorite I've ever read, but it was filled with amazing representation and romance and humor, and the side characters were cute. I mean, it could have used a little bit more something, but it was a lovely quick read for anyone looking to feel seen. Our next book, How to Make Friends with the Dark by Kathleen Glasgow, follows Tiger and explores the aftermath of the death of a loved one, or in this case, Tiger's mother. Tiger and her mother were Tiger's whole world, and now all she has is darkness that feels like it will tear her apart. We follow Tiger as she explores new foster homes, friendships, and feelings. This may sound like a spoiler, but if you read the description synopsis, I think that's the right word for it. I should probably know. Anyway, if you read that, it does tell you that her mother dies, so it's not that big of a spoiler. What I loved the characters. They each had such a unique personality and relationship with Tiger. It didn't feel like they were all bonded with Tiger in the same way by any means. I think the way her dynamic changed with everyone after her mother's death was a really well thought out addition. It added to the real feel of the book, showing that her mother's death wasn't just a passing thing, but it affected her entire life, including her friendships and her relationships. She didn't interact with anyone in the same way that she did before her mother's death. Another thing, how realistic this book was. This book didn't take a mother's death and highlight Tiger's romantic life. It showed her grief, her guilt, her anger, all of it, as it is and not as anyone else believed it to be. Tiger was simply existing as she needed to. Her dress, I won't go into this too much because it could become a spoiler, but if you read it, you'll understand. Tiger's dress added a wonderful metaphor to the book, and I was so proud of her for moving forward. It signified that sometimes all you need is way more time than you think to move on from something, and that really resonated with me. I also really enjoyed the way the chapters were set up, as if there weren't any chapters at all, but simply a story. It felt very realistic and kept me flipping pages until it was over. What I hated. I went into this book expecting it to be so heartbreaking that I couldn't keep reading. I think because it is clearly stated that her mother dies even before you start the book, it wasn't this way for me. I didn't really hate anything about this book. It was a great book and very comforting. It was just a little too comfortable. There wasn't much emotional response from it, which might have just been me. I had a friend once that told me that loved Kathleen Glasgow's books, and she told me that they were the saddest things she'd ever read, so I was really expecting this to be, tearing apart my heart. But it just felt lacking a bit, honestly. My favorite quote, "Sometimes you're so hungry, so thirsty for something to fill you up, you've craved it for so long, but when you finally have it, it hurts going down. It's not a medicine for what ails you. It might just be the thing that is keeping you sick." I just love this metaphor. I'm a poetry person. I mean, this feels very poetic to me, and it has such a deep meaning, and I just connect with that so much. Bonus, if anyone has a recommendation for which Kathleen Glasgow book to read next, please comment below. I will definitely be looking for more of her work, and I don't know if there's a specific order you're supposed to read it in or anything, so let me know, please. And lastly, everything about this book earned it a 10 out of 10, other than the lack of emotional response. Either my expectations were high or this book was lacking, but it didn't leave me impressed, just comforted, so I give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely a wonderful book, just not my favorite. The last book I read in May was Out of Step Into You by Ciera Burch. As you can see, I have an advanced reader copy. I got it from a Goodreads giveaway. I got this about a month before the book was published, so there shouldn't be too many differences, especially not major plot lines or anything. But just a warning, there might be. I'm not sure. So yeah. This book follows two competitive runners, Mariana, but her nickname's Marie. I think it's Marie. I don't know. It might be Mary. I don't know. And Taylor. This book shows what can happen when you run from your problems right back into them. And sometimes a new beginning is a very good place to find a happily ever after. We see their complicated past and watch as they move forward from it, mending wounds and possibly kissing them too. Things I loved. This book was absolutely adorable. The perfect lighthearted sapphic rom-com to start off the summer. There was a lot of cute romance and humor with interesting side characters and fun situations the main characters find themselves in. I loved how the book felt simple, following an obvious main storyline and very few side plots. It made for a good cozy book to jump into whenever, instead of something complicated and difficult that you have to be mentally prepared to read. Things I hated. At some points, it was too simple, and it felt more like a story your friend was gossiping about over the phone than a complex book. It was a quick, easy read, which was quite refreshing, but it could have used quite a bit more wow factor. It wasn't made super clear what was going on, but Marie mentions having a casual relationship with her friend Ciera, and it's made to sound as though they definitely do a bit more than just the occasional makeout session. I didn't love Ciera and Marie's dynamic anyway, with them both being extremely stubborn and neither being forward about their wants or needs, but this made me uncomfortable as the characters are supposedly 16 or 17, and they're juniors in high school. Not only this, but everything about the characters makes them feel more like late teenager, early adult, not middle or high school age. I think it could have easily been made a book about two early 20-year-olds, but instead it was just confusing and worrisome. My favorite quote: "It isn't giving up, and it's not bad, and it isn't the end of the world. It just means stopping." This is one of the characters talking about quitting, and I love this because quitting has such a negative connotation. You say you're quitting something, and everyone's like, oh, you're just not trying hard enough. But this is showing it's just stopping. It's not giving up. You're not failing at it. You're just not doing it anymore. And I love that. Overall, I'd give it about a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. I loved the romance and humor, and the characters were so cute, but it was missing something. I don't know. I mean, it was so cozy, the perfect start to my summer. It really was, but there was just something missing. I don't know. There you have it. That's everything I read May 2025. Happy Pride Month. I will be posting quite a few videos of my LGBTQ plus recommendations because I read a lot of that. For you to find something new to read to celebrate this Pride Month, and stay tuned for my weekly challenges and my bingo card. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have summer reading challenges posted on my channel. You can go find those. And I will see you at the end of June, if not before. Bye!